coalition generated questions, and I'll make sure to differentiate between the two. So if you're ready, we will go ahead and get started. Does that sound good to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, glad to hear it. So these are questions that we're hoping are going to help frame the audience's understanding of you a little bit. So why are you running for council? We have 90 seconds, and I will make sure to put up some very official signs that say 30 seconds and then 15 seconds, just to make sure that you're not taken off guard. So go ahead and get started. Why are you running for council?
Thank you, Richard. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and chat with you this evening. COVID has disrupted so much about our day-to-day lives and certainly how we campaign. And while we have done our best to talk to voters in as many ways as we can, forums like this really offered a structured opportunity for our constituents in the district to be able to get a good sense of the candidates. So thank you. When folks ask why I'm running, I simply say I love my community, and I believe that a path to a stronger Lexington begins in our neighborhoods. It is a critical time for Lexington and communities around the country. And we are trying to work through an economy that's been devastated by COVID, schools, businesses, families, neighborhoods that have been destabilized. And we're also trying to meet this challenge of building stronger connections between communities and law enforcement. I am not only excited to take up this work, but I feel like I've been prepared, and I look forward to going to work on behalf of the 8th District.
Great. Thank you so much. Why do you think that you're the best candidate for this position? Again, you'll have 90 seconds.
Sure. Listen, we have knocked, I knocked my first door in November. And since then, we have talked with neighbors, reached out to thousands, had conversations with hundreds, and really got some sense of the issues that are really important to folks. We know that folks in the district want to have government that does its fundamentals well. We know that they want a leader who communicates and is accountable. And we know that particularly in our district, and I think we're hearing this around the city as well, folks want a strategy for our young people, to support our young people. I am committed to all three. Specifically when it comes to young folks, that's my day job. I think about strategies for cradle to career all the time. I got my start as a young organizer and have since worked in the administrations of President Barack Obama, Governor Steve Beshear, all working to ensure that everyone knows that they can succeed no matter their place, race, or circumstance. Again, this is work that I am excited about, and I think I'm prepared to do the work.
All right, thank you so much. So with all of that, we're going to go ahead and move on to some questions that have been submitted by community members. We're going to be reading these questions as they were submitted, so we haven't edited these questions at all. They're coming out verbatim, right as people sent them to us. Some of these were specifically directed for this council district and to ask to you and your opponent, and some of them are general questions for the entire city. So we're going to move through these, and then after that, we're going to get to some questions from our coalition. Does that sound good to you?
Yep.
All right. So what specific housing policies would you propose to address our housing shortage here in Lexington? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to say that, the short-term needs around housing stability are really at the forefront to me. Because of this public health crisis, folks have not been able to work, either because they literally cannot get to work, or they've been furloughed or they've been unemployed. Through the summer, we know that there have been thousands of families here in Lexington, not just Kentucky, in Lexington, that have faced eviction. And I will say that I've been supportive of some efforts that we've made from the city. I think we've done our best to, I think there's been some effort to make diligent use of the CARES funding that's been made available. I am grateful that there's been some federal relief for folks who are facing eviction. But I think that there's more to do. To the question about the housing availability here in the city, I just say that we've got to diversify our stock. We've got to mitigate displacement. I think we have a few tools to be able to do that. Some of them are financial. Some of them are about modernizing zoning, and others are literally the hard infrastructure. I look forward to having conversations with my colleagues and leaders in the city. But yeah, this is something that's very important to me in both the short term and the long term. Let me not end that question without mentioning the affordable housing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off, but
yeah,
we'll have
sure.
time to get back to it. How will you address Lexington's need to increase sustainability initiatives throughout the community? You have 90 seconds.
Sure. Well, this is something that's really important to me. I chair the Lexington board currently, and I've been on the board since 2015. And since then we have, well, not only I'm thinking about not only our fleet, but even our building. It's LEED certified. We are a green check business in our city, but also I've been working to ensure that we increase our low and no emission vehicle, the low and no emission vehicles in our fleet, particularly electric vehicles. I think our transportation system has a powerful role in that. I do believe, it's important to promote things like Green Check. I'm thinking about the city's relationship with Bluegrass Green Source and how they have worked with businesses and organizations around the community to ensure that they are maintaining their commitment to sustainability. This is work that we've done at Lexington, and it's something I'm really something that's really important to me. Again, I'm forgetting. We've had conversations here with our neighbors here in South Gainesway, and I want to. I know I'm thinking about my friend Julian out in South Gainesway, who has really been thoughtful about our creeks and our watershed.
Great. Thank you so much. So again, these are questions that are coming directly from community members.
Sure.
So here's the next one. It seems like we hear gunshots in our neighborhood every week anymore. Just last week, a teenage girl was shot at the Thorntons at Reading Road. A lot of people don't feel safe in Lexington anymore. What ideas do you have to address this issue? Please be specific. You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think this is really important to me. I got an email just the other day, a woman who said, I moved to the neighborhood a year ago. I thought I was moving to a great neighborhood, but I'm finding violence to be an issue. Yes, we had a shooting in Thorntons not long ago. We had around the same time, there was a shooting near Pimlico and Center Parkway. This is something that's really important. I'm thinking about even the mayor's call to action, knowing that we've lost several young people since April here in the city. I think there are a few things that we can do. The short answer that I'll say here is, in the city, I think we've got to align the youth programming and connect with our community partners to ensure that there's actually a systemic and strategic approach from cradle to career to support young people. I think that we have to close the mentor gap. I am on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters. We talk all the time about the fact that we have got a wait list for young people that's about 200 young people long. The same is true for other mentor organizations in the city. But lastly, and I think the most important thing we've got to do is listen to the folks in the neighborhoods. The woman who sent me that email, the person who sent that question in. I'm thinking about mothers who have worked diligently to end gun violence in our city. I look forward to working with all of these partners to ensure that we defeat gun violence in our community.
Thank you. Can't get that timer to stop beeping. The next question that we have from the community is, do you support defunding the Lexington Police Department? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think most folks will agree that law enforcement and public safety is a necessary service for local government. I think what we have heard, particularly over the last few months, is this national call for accountability and leadership. With that, I think that what we could do in this moment, I know that I've supported the mayor's commission on justice and equality. I look forward to the recommendations. I wrote an op-ed in the Herald Leader back in June with kind of my thoughts on what was happening. I called in to end no-knock warrants. That's something that has broad consensus. My friend Attica Scott in Louisville filed a bill in the state legislature. Rand Paul, I hear, has filed a bill in Washington to end no-knock warrants. I think we can have a conversation about what it looks like to maximize community participation in oversight of our law enforcement agency. And I think we should expand the use of body cameras. I've talked to community members and I've talked to police officers. Both believe that they are a positive addition to the work. I know that we've added some additional funding. I hope that we not only expand the use of body cameras, but we turn the body cameras on. Again, this is a really an important conversation, but it's about accountability and leadership at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. The next question from the community. Armstrong Mill is a connector between two major thoroughfares and is on the bus lines. It gets a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially between Tates Creek and Appian Way. The problem is these streets have no sidewalks and it's a dangerous place to walk. What would you do to try and get a sidewalk built and to improve safety for pedestrians? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think you can tell a lot about a neighborhood by the presence of things like sidewalks. There is actually an Armstrong Mill, a small area plan that exists. I think we should revisit this plan and activate it. It should not take the number of years that it's taken to be able to get, again, things like sidewalks funded. So yeah, this will be a priority for me. I also know that there will be some work connected to the work around the EPA consent decree on the sewers down in that area. And so I think it just opens up an opportunity to be able to, get things like that done.
Great. Thank you so much. The next question that we have from the community, and this is our last community question that we have in here. So after that, we're going to move on to coalition questions. Sure. Is a long one, so bear with me for a second. It's going to take me might take me 90 seconds to read it. Charitable nonprofit businesses employ 9% of the Lexington Fayette County workforce. It's about 14,000 residents, and account for 9.6 of the annual wages, 674 million. In addition to being major employers, the nonprofit sector also brings significant revenues through tourism, local dining, and retail support, and many more. How would you support the nonprofit sector as an employer of choice and as an economic engine in Lexington? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so number one, I agree completely. I believe, as a nonprofit employee, the work that nonprofits do is just really important to undergirding and providing infrastructure, civic and social infrastructure in a community. Something that I learned, a shout out to Civic Lex through their Moving Toward Viability study that looked at the fiscal, and actually looked across a number of indicators for nonprofits. I think I learned there the powerful economic impact that it has, particularly as a workplace. I don't think we give enough thought to that. I did support, again, the city has deployed some CARES dollars specifically around housing for folks who work in service industry, folks who are educators, and folks who work in nonprofit. I think that's some recognition of the role that they play as providing essential services. But I also, it may not be in the day-to-day purview of a city council member, but I also think that there's something about the investment in the capability and capacity building of nonprofits. I think that means activating some of the recommendations that we heard following that study from Civic Lex. I've done a lot of thinking about like board leadership, but also, how do we bring in and promote more philanthropic investments? This is something that's well on my radar, and I look forward to working with partners.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some coalition questions. So these are questions that have come from the Lex Vote Coalition. So there's about 12 or 13 organizations involved in that across a variety of different civic outlets. And collectively, we wrote many of these questions, some of which you have probably seen before. So these questions are important to a wide variety of organizations across the city of Lexington and address some of the most significant issues we have. So let's start with the city budget. In recent years, Lexington's budget obligations have outpaced its ability to generate revenue. In the fiscal year 20 and 21 budget, this has dramatically impacted everything from economic development to social services. What strategies do you recommend to address revenue shortages while balancing spending priorities? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so this is a question that I know that cities around the country are trying to, frankly, cities and states are trying to answer. Revenues have been devastated here over the past few months. What's also true in Lexington is that we knew before COVID that we were going to have some tough decisions to make around the budget, and there was some, I think, some thoughtful discussion about what revenue options there might be. This is what I think. In the short term, I think it's really important to defeat the public health crisis, to fully open up the economy and make sure that folks can get back to work. And I think that would then put us in a position to work from strength. I would like to pull forward those conversations about thinking about revenue options. There's some. There was rumor that there's some taxes, for example, that are far below industry standard. I think it's worth the conversation. Talking with practitioners and our budget folks over in the city. Again, I think it's worth pulling those conversations forward, but I don't think we can go anywhere until we fully realize this economy, reopen the economy and get folks back to work.
Great, thank you. We're going to now talk about urban growth. So Lexington's 2018 comprehensive plan encourages infill and redevelopment as Lexington's main growth strategy. What specific implementation aspects of the comprehensive plan are working, and what challenges do you think need to be addressed? You again have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so we prioritize infill redevelopment. I always think of at least 3 tools that we have. One is financial incentives that we have. There are zoning modernization that we can do. And then it's the hard infrastructure, the roads, the sewer, and those things, the work that we can take on to go about this together. I think that we have seen, if you look at 21C, Summit at Fritz Farm, those are projects that use some of those financial incentives. I think that the effort to diversify our housing stock, again, in our district, I know we have large multifamily units and a lot of single family units. In the city, I know there's a question about what does it look like to create more options in between. In order to do that, I think it takes some shared commitment. Infill redevelopment means density. And my hope is that we can really work together as neighbors and work honestly with our private sector partners to ensure that we fully realize the comprehensive plan. I think I am in agreement with the 2018 comprehensive plan and can appreciate the progress that we've made so far. Lest I forget, with my last 15 seconds, being the chair of Lextran, of the Lextran board, we've taken a look at some options on Nicholasville Road. Again, how can we as we think about housing, how do we think about transit alongside that and be really strategic about how we use our space?
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to now move on to issues of COVID-19. So the impact of COVID-19 on local businesses and nonprofits will be significant and long-lasting. What will you do as a council member to support the recovery of both businesses and nonprofits and foster their resilience moving forward? Again, you have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so I supported the funds that were deployed to support small businesses as they are doing the work to honestly phase in their businesses as the economy begins to reopen, making sure that they have the right PPE and those sorts of things. I do also I think it was important that we added I'm thinking specifically about the funds for social services, those the SR grants that we make. COVID was an important moment because it was a reminder that nonprofit spending is not charity, it is solidarity work. And I think it is important to recognize that the essential services that our nonprofits provide, it is going to take a lot of work to get our community back to where it should be. That means an economy that is fully realized, and it means neighborhoods that are stabilized and communities that are stabilized, and those essential services that nonprofits provide, I think, are really important. So I'm committed to doing the work and being diligent about ensuring that we have these cross-sector supports moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much. So now this is going to be, we have 3 more questions in this section, and then we'll wrap up. Obviously, because your opponent is not here, we're probably going to end a little bit early, but just wanted to let you know that we have 3 more questions left. So we're going to talk about redistricting. So LFUCG Council will soon have the responsibility of redistricting itself. What is your approach to including public participation in the redistricting process, which will begin in January? So you have 90 seconds. Go ahead.
I think it's essential. The redistricting process comes, in part as a result of the census and ensuring that our districts are fair and representative of the folks who live here in Lexington and our various districts. I think the process that we have should be public. It should be data driven, and it should have we should honestly have the right voices at the table. Again, I would push back on these efforts that kind of prioritize council members, for example, trying to choose their voters. That would be less than optimal. I think, again, we got to have a process that is informed by public input and the data.
Great, thank you. So next, we're going to talk about racial justice. Given your understanding of Lexington's long and complicated history around racial injustices, what do you plan to do to directly address inequality and its root causes in our city? 90 seconds. Yeah.
It's important to first recognize that systemic racism is bigger than any one of us, bigger than any system, any sector. And it is something that takes commitment from us all. You talk about our history, you can reach back to the examples of redlining that concentrated folks of color in certain areas of the city, or even some 20 years ago. We've had this conversation around police violence before with the death of Mr. Sullivan, and I think we've had community conversations very similar to the ones we're having now. And I remember even Partners for Youth. We have the Neighborhood Youth Council that Partners for Youth works with over here in Gainesway now. I know that was in part as a result of those conversations. In the city, I think that we have got to be clear about where we have purview and what our contribution is. Whether we are talking about law enforcement. I'm thinking about the Herald Leader article that called out the disproportionate impact on folks that are getting pulled over. I think about economic inclusion. This idea that we probably, if we're spending in a minority business spending program for veterans, women, and minorities, and only 1% of those funds are being spent with minorities, we probably need to take a look at what that plan looks like. And so I think the city just got to get serious about what is our purview, what is our contribution, and then make those reforms.
Great, thank you so much. So our last question in this segment is something that's near and dear to our hearts at Civic Lex, and is also really, really important to our coalition more broadly, and that's public participation. And we touched on this a number of times throughout this forum. So I want to close out with an opportunity to discuss this briefly. But I just wanted to thank you again for all of your time and being here tonight to talk with us. So Lexington has temporarily suspended public comment in all public meetings, mostly on Zoom. Meaningful public participation is vital to a responsive local government. And COVID-19 has created a new set of challenges in that regard. What strategies would you support to make ongoing public participation accessible for all? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's public participation is important. It is not just important; it is essential in any policy making process. And I think we should make every effort to make sure that we have communication that is open and accountable with the public. I think looking back at my career, it has always been a priority. I'm one who has sat in the living room with groups of neighbors who talked about their greatest aspirations for community. I've had one-on-one coffees with folks here in the district, and introduce educators to their state representatives for the first time. This is something that is very important to me. Again, another nod to Civic Lex. I remember the process that they sort of shared that really clarified and demystified the process around the budget, communicated very clearly, with sometimes even facilitated conversations where neighbors could talk about these issues that were important to them and make real meaning. That is something that I want to continue as a council member and use those best practices. It is also important to say that neighbors should not see their council member only at the council meeting, whether it is remote or in person downtown, whether it is a one-on-one conversation, whether it's convenings in the neighborhood, whether it's office hours. I can imagine, having office hours down at the Gainesway Community Center. I can imagine having conversations over Zoom. Public participation is important. It's a commitment that I hold.
Great. Thank you so much, Christian. We're going to have to stop here. I would say that we're out of time, but we, have made it all the way through all of the questions that we had because there's only you here. But I want to thank you for being here with us this evening. And I want to thank the audience and Lexington more broadly for submitting questions and tuning in. Shortly, in about 30 minutes, we're going to be having another one of these forums with 9th District candidates Whitney Elliott Baxter and Willie Fogel. This channel will stay open. We will stop the Facebook stream and all of that. And if you decide to stay in here for the next forum, you're going to watch the video that was playing at the beginning of this on repeat. So for about a half hour. So if I were you, I would just maybe step away and come back in 30 minutes. But Christian, I want to thank you so much for being here and best of luck.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody who was able to join.